Thank you for joining me for episode 3, the blocking tutorial.
Hello there! We are back with episode 3 of this fall granny square project, and today we're going to be talking about blocking. So first of all, I'm going to show you what I use to block. This is a set that I have. It's not necessary for today, but if blocking is something you see in your future, you might want to consider something like this if you're going to be doing large pieces. It comes in a self-contained case. So there are 12-inch by 12-inch blocks in here, and there are 9 blocks. So you can do a very large project with these. The blocks are interlocking. So if you were doing a granny square blanket or any type of blanket, and you are doing a wearable, any of those projects would be really neat to use with these blocks. Also, if you wanted to block all of these granny squares in a single layer where they would dry faster, you could do that. So this is just a really neat set if you are going to be starting large projects. It also comes with a large set of blocking pins, and everything in this little case is really neat and self-contained. So it has a little pocket right here, and here's a large, very large set of blocking pins. It also has a handle on the end here, so it's just really neat, handy to carry around, and very good if you like to stay organized. I will leave a link to the Amazon page for this particular product. More commonly used in granny squares is a wooden block like this, and it comes with pegs, and we will learn how to block these granny squares onto this wooden block with these pegs. So this is the method we're going to be using today. If you don't have something like this, you could use most anything. You might be able to buy some foam board, although you really need something that is water absorbent to block with. This is a very affordable way to start with blocking, and I can also leave the Amazon link for this product. You're going to need some water, and I like to use a fine spray mist like this. Although if you don't have a spray bottle, you can also saturate this under the sink and wring it out. It's going to take a lot longer to dry, but there's a different method. You could use the spray method or run under the water method. There's lots of different ways you could do this. Also, if you're using a more stubborn fiber that is going to be more difficult to shape, or if you are making something where you want a real stiff, structured product at the end, you could use something like a spray starch, or you could dilute the spray starch in your water and have a happy medium somewhere in the middle if you want a little more structure than water is going to give you. So why should you block? Well, these squares might not be the best example because they're holding their shape really well because of the method we use to make them. But a lot of times they do not, depending on the fiber you use, your tension, your level of skill. It could also be the technique that you use to make the square. It may turn out really wonky. But even the problem of a really wonky, unruly square can be resolved with a good blocking. Don't stress out if your squares are not turning out perfectly, because blocking really covers a multitude of sin. It can really get them straightened out for you. Once we wet the fiber and flatten it out, stretch it out, it will reshape as it dries into the shape that we need it to be, much like styling or curling your hair. So we're going to begin by giving your granny square a fine mist, and I'm going to just rub my fingers over it, make sure it got to the edges and the corners. And for this particular square, I've already counted. It's going to be 12 dots across is where I want it to be. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's where I had pre-measured the length of the side of my granny square, and that is the length I want to stretch it out to be. And we're going to do the same down here and across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These pre-drilled holes make that counting and measuring very easy because they're very symmetrical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. So now what we're going to do is find our corners. So remember that chain one space in the corners of our granny square? We're going to find those, and we are just going to thread those pegs through that hole. And we're going to push down. And I'm going to do that for all of these squares. Saturate, rub your fingers over it, make sure that you feel a little dampness on all parts of your granny square. Push it down. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 of these on camera. And then I'm going to do the remainder probably off camera. This will get the point across and let you know what you need to do to get started. Okay, I'm going to thread that down. I'm going to do one more. And you can do them all in one stack. Now, if you're doing them all in one stack, I would not oversaturate them. I would do something light, like we're doing with this fine mist spray bottle, so that they dry in a reasonable amount of time and that you get the desired result. If you oversaturate them, things could go wrong. They may not dry. If you've got a large stack of 18, as we do. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And now I'm going to put a few more. I'm going to thread these through and pull the edges out a little bit. This is actually a little hard on my fingers, so I'm going to take the block and push it down with that. This block is meant to hold your pegs, but as you can see, that notch is not very deep, and I don't find that to be the best tool. This accessory that comes with the block is not great for holding the pegs, so I usually end up putting them in a Ziploc bag, and I don't use that block for storing the pegs. All right, can you see how the edges are straightening out nice and neat? You don't have to do every space. Just use your own discretion at how your blocks are looking, how your squares are looking. My squares, because of the technique we used, are already pretty square and symmetrical, so I'm happy with the shape they are already. But blocking for good measure never hurts, because you'll see the difference between the blocked squares. They're going to just, it's just so satisfying to see that they're those nice crisp edges. And when we start assembling our bag, it's going to make things even easier. Okay, all right, can you see the difference now? So blocking is very important in a lot of things that you might be making. As I said before, because of this technique, you probably could have gotten away with these squares without blocking them, but it's good to know how to block, and I'm teaching you this because your squares, you may be using a different yarn than I'm using, or you may have different tension, or several different factors. So your squares may have not come out as square as these, and blocking may be necessary, but blocking is just a very good skill to know. And if you continue to crochet, you should be using blocking, especially if you're making clothing or wearables. It just makes your clothing so much nicer. Everything hangs better and looks better, and you get a more refined shape. And it's just, you definitely need to know how to do it if you're going to be a crocheter, in my opinion. I'm going to do this off camera, but you will want to stack the entire stack on there. If it's too thick, you can do half the stack and then let that dry and put the other half of the stack on later. We will reconvene at episode 4, where we're going to be assembling our fall granny square bag. See you later.
Chic, chic.